So now there is allegations. There are allegations that Biden didn't know what he was signing when he made executive orders. And autopen. Now it's insane because you see Trump every day signing executive orders and holding them up. Biden couldn't do that. An autopen had to do it. Very strange. Worth investigating. Now, throughout history, beginning with Harry Truman, autopens were used by presidents, but not on executive orders and laws and things like that. However, Edith Wilson signed her husband's name, Woodrow Wilson, to a whole bunch of very important documents because Woodrow had a stroke, couldn't do anything, and nobody knew about it. Confronting the presidents. If you haven't read it, shame on you. So Edith was actually running the government. But now we have autopen running the government, maybe. So an outfit that's looking at this very hard is the Heritage Foundation, based in D.C., and its chief counsel of the Oversight Project, Kyle Brosnan, joins us now from Washington. So how bad do you think this is?
It's pretty bad, Bill. So zooming out a little bit, the Constitution vests powers of signing bills into law, issuing pardons, things like that in one person and one person only, the President of the United States. And for things like pardons and bill signings, his physical signature is what authorizes or completes that process. And we have found evidence that President Biden did not hand sign multiple pardons and acts of clemency throughout his presidency, including the pardons of the January 6th committee members, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Milley, and the pardon for the commutation for everyone on federal death row in the waning days of his administration. And so it leads to a question, if you combine that with the practical issues of Biden was clearly out of it, his mental faculties were diminishing throughout his presidency, it begs the question of who was running the country, who had authorization to sign these pardons, who had access to the autopen. And so we are uncovering multiple exercises of the pardon power, which only belongs to the President of the United States, that he did not hand sign those documents.
An argument might be made that he knew about the documents and was just too lazy to sign them.
That may well be the case, but we need to understand who had access and control of that autopen. And maybe there is a written trail of evidence of him authorizing those actions. But we've seen time and again throughout the last 4 years that the President Biden's mental capacity greatly diminished throughout his presidency. We saw the disastrous debate performance where he paused for over a minute. We saw gaffe after gaffe on the media and speaking in public. We saw Special Counsel Robert Hur refuse to prosecute him, in part because he is an elderly man with a poor memory. And so if he is too senile to see his day in court for mishandling classified documents, then there are serious questions as to his mental ability to execute his offices of the presidency.
All right. So what if it comes to light that Biden didn't know about what he was signing or what the autopen was signing, and he had no interest in it, and they just went out? There's no mechanism to reverse those orders, is there?
Well, that's an open question. We're studying that here at the Oversight Project now. We're engaging with legal scholars and continuing our research on that. But it's unprecedented here. Generally speaking, President Bush, for example, would have bills flown halfway around the world for him to sign here. But use of the autopen to this scale to exercise a power that solely belongs to the president and cannot be legally delegated to anyone is unprecedented. So I think the next step is it's terrifying.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and I've said this from the very beginning. He was not in charge. Let's look at the men who were in charge, and you give me a rundown of them. First one is Ron Klain, White House Chief of Staff from 21 to 23. Klain had an enormous amount of influence in that White House, correct?
Yes.
What's your assessment of him?
So I mean, you see the reports that President Biden kept a notoriously close circle. He had a number of consiglières throughout, his very long political career. One other person that may have had access to it is Neera Tanden. She served as what is called the staff secretary, which is basically the nucleus of the White House. Any piece of paper that goes in front of the president, the staff secretary sees and sort of keeps the train running on time. And she served as staff secretary for, I believe, 2 years during the Biden presidency, including times where we noticed that clemency warrants and pardons appeared to have been auto-penned.
I don't think there's any doubt that she saw everything that went through the system. What I'm trying to get at, though, is Klain, was his governing style different than Biden's? Was he far left? Was he a moderate Democrat? What was he?
Well, I think you saw a leftward turn during the Biden administration, from ranging from their cabinet appointees to DEI policies, energy policies, you name it. I think President Biden ran in 2020 as a moderating and uniting candidate, and then when he got into office, he veered the country sharply in the leftward direction.
Sure. The open border was stunning. Open border executive order was absolutely stunning. Second guy is Mike Donilon, senior advisor to Biden from 21 to 24. You know anything about him?
Personally, no. Other than public reports that he is a very close advisor to him. He's part of the Biden inner circle. Depending on what his position was in the White House, he may have had access to the auto pen. We are going to assume that there was some sort of policy governing this, and the individuals that had access pursuant to that policy are people that will likely need to be spoken to by investigators.
Yeah. All right. Because you got to run this down and see what the point of view of these people were. Now, Susan Rice is the next one, our National Security Advisor, 13 to 17, under Barack Obama. She was in the White House all the time. She's a committed leftist, no doubt about that. And if there was a link to Barack Obama, she would be it because they're close friends, correct?
That's right. She was a prominent force in the Obama White House, and in the Biden White House, she served as domestic policy advisor, and she played a big role in another investigation that we uncovered about the Biden administration's attempt to federalize elections and mobilize the weight of the federal government to support Democratic candidates.
Yeah, if I'm you, I'm looking at Susan Rice real hard. Next guy is Jeff Zients, White House Chief of Staff, 23 to 25. I don't know anything about him. Do you know anything about him?
Well, he was Biden's original COVID czar when he first came into office, and we saw all of the efforts from the Biden White House to censor any dissent about COVID, and then was elevated to the chief of staff by the end here. Again, as chief of staff, he's side by side with the president all the time. Oftentimes accesses proxy in meetings and things like that. He has the potential to be a big player here as well. Yeah. He would have been chief of staff when those auto pen pardons in the waning days of the administration for the January 6th committee, General Milley, Dr. Fauci, and Biden family members were issued.
Yeah, those four individuals, I think, were running the country. But you really have to get in and bore down on what their agenda was, who they really are, and it's complicated. The final thing is, will the Heritage Foundation file a lawsuit here? What's the end game for you guys?
So we have submitted a follow-up Freedom of Information Act request to gather more information. We have the potential to sue for those FOIA requests if they're not answered and they don't follow the law. But we are in court on a number of cases concerning President Biden's mental acuity. And the most significant one on that is for the audio tape of Special Counsel Hur's interview with President Biden.
Him, right.
And in that interview, President Biden forgot key details of his life, like when his son passed away, when he was vice president, and other important details. And that interview formed the basis for Special Counsel Hur to determine that he was not going to try and prosecute President Biden because he is an elderly man with a poor memory.
You think you're going to get that?
Who knows? The President Biden asserted executive privilege over those documents. The case has been pending and fully briefed since August, and the judge is asking for whether the new administration has a new policy here. But when the president asserts executive privilege, it's rare and it's a big deal. And
Unless
so
it's
we are still continuing to.
It's
Right,
an auto.
right. That's right.
So then, all right, Kyle, let us know. Keep us posted on what you find out. I'm going to predict it's going to be a huge scandal about Joe Biden not being in charge for 4 years. That is unprecedented in this country. We appreciate your time very much today.